So 5'8" now. Two great looking blokes there, Dylan Brown and Jaden Campbell will both talk about. But number one, I have Dylan Brown as my must have. He's one of my must have top fives. You see in the post. So I'm so big on Dylan Brown this year. I think he's in for a career best year. He owes the club, he owes himself. If he doesn't do it this year, he should seriously think about what his career looks like moving forward. Number two, Cam Munster. I've still got him there as number two. I'm with Jesse originally where he says I'm a bit cautious early on with him to go. But you also don't want to go too late on him because then Origin comes into play and the likes. So you'd be trading someone in where you're going to cop a few punches and hits for a few weeks there. So I am big on Cam Munster, but I can also see valid reasons why plenty of people just not going there and won't go there. The more I think about Cam Munster, he's actually becoming a bit more of a headache and a pain in the ass than anything because I don't want to go very early on him. But as I said, there's State of Origin, there's everything else to play. So, but he's also a player where even though it's a hard draw, he can come out and brain it. He can come out and kill it because he's that quality player that we've spoken about in the past. Those certain players that just step up when it is those higher opposition. And he could come out and brain it and get an 80, 90 or something. That's the sort of player he is. So, yeah, do what Cam Munster, whatever you will. I know you'll have something to say on Cam Munster. 3, Tom Dearden. Again, a lot more because of the early season run for the Cowboys. He's a lot cheaper than the first two I've spoken about. That's his real appeal. Number 4, everyone who's been watching the page knows now him and Jesse did not exchange Christmas cards, but I've still got him there as a contender. I did say about with Latrell, the worry is if they've got a bit more pressure on them that they don't generally perform at the best. But the other thing is I know Cody Walker doesn't have long to go. There's still arguably a premiership window open for South Sydney. If there's ever a year that they can try and do something, it's this year. I can see him only getting weaker over the next maybe couple of years with some forwards leaving, etc. So Cody Walker needs to have a big year, and that would be great for Supercoaches if he's to do that. And number 5, again, because of that natural, I think you need to have some good cash options as well. Jaden Campbell from the Gold Coast Titans. Unfortunately, he's out for maybe the first 5 weeks. It's so weird because I've actually heard stuff that he could be back as soon as round 1 now, but I've also heard stuff that he could be out for about round 5 or round 6. There is so much going on at the moment. I think that's a bit of Des playing his games that he loves to play. We don't know what the hell is going on, so just watch team list. But even that, he could name him at fullback and then pull him out the day of. So I don't know. Personally, just with what's going on, I'll avoid him to start with. But Tyne's another team that has a juicy run for a while, and his attacking upside's too good for mine. I think as soon as he gets on the field and can play a few games, he'll start stringing some cash together. And that's something that I want to be part of when it does happen. Jesse, that top 5?
Yep. Dylan Brown, number 1. You know, you can't knock it. Depending on how he goes this year, yeah, it should be his best season ever, realistically, thinking about what he has to do. They start off so good. It goes for a long time. They don't have a bye for a while. So you can lock him in. You can lock him in through Origin, which you don't have the luxury of with Munster. There is so much upside for Dylan Brown. He's obviously pretty penny though, and kind of makes it hard. And see, 5'8's kind of that position at the moment where I'm thinking like if I want to have the 2 gun halves and 2 gun fullbacks, I don't have the money for a gun 5'8 or 2. You can't have 2 of them, but there isn't really 2 to have realistically. But yeah, man, if you've got him, that's about as good as it can really get for that position. Incredible base, incredible upside as well, and he's only going to get better realistically. You hope so. Yeah, good first pick. Cam Munster. Yeah, at the moment he's kind of sitting in my team, just depending on 1 or 2 other players that I'm moving around. He's the guy that will show up to a big game and shit himself against the Tigers because he doesn't need to do a great deal. You know what I mean? So yeah, your time is run, but you time it around the hard games. So a little bit different to how you kind of see it. But yeah, that Panthers game, it's probably going to be his trickiest game for the whole opening fixture, and I'm kind of glad it's round 1. because you're getting the best opportunity to beat the Panthers, especially in that first week. And obviously, the Storms have a great first round record. So I think if that Panthers game was going to come in any later, it might be worse for them. But I don't mind it to start the season off. Um, and then, yeah, the early bye kind of hurts too. You can't forget about that. It's in round 4. So there's a couple things there that can deter you a bit, but man, I'm still seeing that kind of value out of him, because he does have those games. He just sort of puts it on. Um, Very much like those other fullbacks that I kind of went against. They're like, same thing. They have those shitty games where they don't do a lot. He does the same thing in 5'8", but he's one of those never in doubt kind of guys. He always seems to do something pretty good at the end. And he's a bit of a discount as well to Dylan Brown. And realistically, I would say Munster's the better player than Dylan Brown too. Traditionally always averaged more than him, except for this last season. So, yeah, man, either of the two. I'm personally leaning more towards Munster, mainly for the price. It's not a massive price drop, but it's yeah, when you stretch that thin, it's a bit hard to reach. So, yeah, but I can definitely see how Brown is the smarter play for the beginning run. Um, but either way, I like both of them more than Cody Walker. So. Tom Dearden, number 3. I was a bit funny about that one because you have him above Cody Walker, considering they have a 10 points different average. But yeah, man, like you just hope that he can get there. I don't know if he has the kind of upside that Walker does have, realistically, unless he makes that team his own in that way, and he kind of really does put it into a new gear. But yeah, you're probably right about how the Rabbits will start off, and if you can really keep it up. I have never really considered the Rabbitohs a premiership threat as far as they go. Whether or not that's a bit of Roosters bias coming through, or the fact they kind of capitulate at some point in the year and they'll have just shockers and then they'll kind of turn on each other. So I feel like you can't really get that out of a good premiership winning team. But yeah, he's just too. He's not coming to my birthday party. I'll tell you that much right now. It's just not happening for me and Cody. So, but yeah, man, Tom Dearden, he's good price too. Like he's obviously the cheapest out of that top 4 that you've got in there. Whether or not you put him in as that sort of cheaper option, just because of his price, I still feel like the other 3 will average probably 10 points more than him on a normal standard season. But at the very least, you know what I mean. Brown and Munster, good chance they're pushing 80, 70 plus. Cody probably just under him. It's a pretty predictable position, that 5'8" little trio of guns they have. But yeah, it'd be nice to see someone else break into that mold a bit. And I reckon out of the lot of them, Dearden's probably got a good chance to do it. And then Jaden Campbell, yeah, man, obviously that dual position 5'8" definitely helps. The being injured till round 5 doesn't help at all. But have you been seeing that he might be back for round 1? I haven't seen that at all.
Yeah, I seen it. I think it was today on actually the NRL app. Like in the comments, it says Hasler's got Fafita and Campbell on ice in the hope that they can be right for round 1. But I think that was just wishful thinking. There's been a lot of times I've read the NRL team list, and some of the comments they say, I sort of think to myself, are these guys actually watching the game, or they're just typing stuff as they go? So, obviously the stronger male is that they're out for a little bit longer than that. But again, like it just reminds me of what Des Hasler is like as a coach. And straight away, the games he can play, it's I remember, like he's renowned for super coaches to be an absolute punish and an absolute headache when it comes to planning things. Used to be the same for Manly all the time when it came to forwards and backs and stuff. And all of a sudden, that gun that you're relying on to get that 60 points, the last minute was pulled out of the team or something, or there was a quick rotation of the forwards, and you're like, for fuck's sake, Des, what are you doing to me?
Yeah,
he's good like that, especially with the forwards. Though, like Fafita and Tino, we can talk about them a bit later on, but they're also got some question marks just because of how he rotates his forwards and stuff. And the Titans have a really good forward pack this year, but let's not get into that at the moment. But yeah, Des is the mad professor, as they like to call him, and he can do some crazy stuff. So would not surprise me if Jaden Campbell's there round 1. Let me just put it that way.
yeah. Well, he obviously doesn't play Supercoach. Or he does,
No,
and
he
he just
does
wants to get
not.
that edge over everyone else by not telling him his
Yeah.
team list. So, yeah, if he's out till round 5. You can kind of make a bit of a play if you want to. You could probably get in Braden Trindle as a swap for him because he's a bit cheaper. You can definitely afford Trindle if you can afford Campbell. And if you're running with Campbell as your main 5'8", which at the beginning when I was building teams and he was obviously named, I was expecting him to be my main 5'8". And then, at some point plan on trading him up. But Trindle could be your fill-in until they have their buy in round 5, providing Campbell's back round 5. You just straight swap them.
Yeah.
It could be something worth a shout, but you can't predict what fire you'll have to put out in round 5, and you don't want to get caught out with a non-playing 5'8" anyway. So it just depends. It just depends on where he comes through. But he's definitely, if he's coming in at 458k or whatever he is at, and from round 5 he looks pretty good for it. I still feel like that's good value, man. Definitely considering the position in general. You might be able to get him at that point in time if you've got a bit extra coin. You might be able to put him on the bench and still have a good 5'8" at the time too, or trade down. I probably wouldn't trade down in them, especially round 5, kind of unproven as well. You could probably still give him a couple of weeks, so you might actually have a pretty solid structure of a team set up. You won't have to worry about his price changing still for a fair few weeks after that. So you can get a bit of a gauge on how they're going because he's going to come into a Titans team that's already rolling. So, just have to keep an eye out on what Jaden Campbell does because he's definitely an exciting prospect. And the duel is so nice. There's so few of them now. So,
Yeah.
no,
I agree.
Just
Honorable
barely anyone
mentions,
else
I
to
guess,
talk
for the
about.
5'8". Yeah, for the 5. You have spoken about Trindle. I want to get to him in the halfback side of things because I want to have a bit of a discussion around Tim and Hines together. There's been a lot of chat around that from the All-Stars fallout. Couple of just quick honourable mentions that have been spoken about and thereabouts. Matt Burton for the Dogs. I personally don't have him at all as Supercoach relevant at the moment. From what I saw in the trial on the weekend as well, I still just don't think he's a playmaker. I think he's a centre, an out-and-out centre. And I just think it's going to get to the stage where the Dogs have to bite the bullet there, put him at centre and make Sherry work somewhere else or put Crichton back to fullback or something. But the more I see of Burton and at 5'8", the more it starts to piss me off because they're ruining, in my eyes, one of the great centers we could be seeing at the moment and for the next few years, out of position and just making him do things that isn't natural for him. So it's doing my absolute head in at the moment, but let's not try and get into that too much. Don't fire me up too much. Luke Brooks, some people are absolutely loving Luke Brooks still.
Yeah.
We've said it before. I don't get it. The more I think about Luke Brooks' play and I try and talk myself into somehow being those people and making it work, I just cannot do it. Like, the more I think about it, the worse it gets. I just really don't get it. Like, please reach out to us. Let us know why you think Brooks is such a good play because I cannot see it for the life of me.
Yeah, the argument is it's a fresh start for him, and he's in a much better team playing next to a better halfback. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of not good for him, really.
Halfback that does
But
everything.
yeah, so and if it's not the halfback doing everything, it's the fullback doing everything. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't see it either, but it's nice to try and hope that he does better than he has done at the Tigers. It can't be too hard to do better than that. But even still, he averaged 50 at the Tigers. I just don't see him getting that much opportunity at Manly. So, yeah, not for me.
The last one to have a quick chat on, Ezra Mam, who has started to feature a little bit in some teams that I have seen floating around. Not the worst play for where he's at, but I still can't get around him. I think that's a lot of people going off the grand final hype. He scored, I think it was like 19 tries last year. He scored a phenomenal amount of tries, and it's very hard for 5'8" and halfbacks to go again and score that sort of try scoring feats for a season. Like, that's astronomical. Like, that is ridiculous. He's outscored plenty of backline players in the last year, and to bank your house on him doing that, because clearly the points that he was getting last year, and it still only ranked him, I think it was mid-table here for the 5'8". So it hasn't ranked him too high considering he was scoring so many points from tries. Like, if that dries up even by 5-6 tries or something, he hasn't shown yet in a Supercoach world he can find points elsewhere yet. So it's just so much of a gamble. And there's players that are cheaper and there's players that are a bit more expensive that I'd definitely rather go for.
Yeah. His high score last year was 82. And
Yeah.
he probably scored maybe a hat trick in that game to
I was
get
going to say he
82.
would have scored a couple.
Yeah. So he it's just if he's not scoring tries, he's not really doing anything else. So yeah. He's obviously just priced off an average, which he'll never actually really hit because it's kind of like if he gets that try, he'll get to his average. And it's like
Yeah.
fair enough, he averaged quite a fair few tries. So, but you're probably right about them drying up at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Just depends on his game, man. But yeah, 20% owned too. It's a pretty high ownership. You're putting a lot of eggs in that basket. You're probably going to get disappointed more often than not. So.
I
But
agree.
again, you aren't paying 780K for him either, so you can really be too.